What forgiveness means to me, and it's such a complex word, obviously, because when you say, I forgive you, but I'm not going to forget or something, that's just so contradictory. And it's really hard to grasp that concept until you're really in the thick of it. Forgiveness is truly giving it to the Lord. I truly believe it's just like when you're a parent and you're just like, okay, I forgive you, and you move on from the subject. And you just forget about it. There's no conditions. It's unconditional love. My mom went missing when I was 10 years old, a few days before Christmas. We didn't find out till later, obviously, that we think it's a homicide. She was murdered. The police department did screw up the investigation at the very beginning. To the point where this guy is still walking around free. They haven't found her, but they have everything to show that he did it, but they need a body. We don't have a confession or anything, so our family hasn't had closure come this December for 27 years. So I don't really have a lot of things from my mom. The 4 photos that I had to be court-ordered from my grandmother. Our house, 2 days after she went missing, was on the news burning and in a suspicious fire, and they don't know how it started or anything. So I really have nothing but my memories of my mom. My mom was a really beautiful person. She was funny, and she was in the Army. So she was really tough, like tough exterior, kind of a little rough around the edges. But she was also a cosmetologist. She owned a salon and stuff like that. So she was just really someone to look up to because she was tough and she was girly. I feel like I got some of the best traits from her. My brother's dad was arrested for methamphetamine. So we were shipped expeditiously to Oklahoma to go live with an aunt and uncle. About 6 months after we moved here to Oklahoma, sexual abuse and physical abuse ensued for many years. We went to church every Wednesday, every Sunday. My uncle was involved in the church. He was a deacon in the church, sang in the men's church choirs. So that was my first introduction into church and what a man of God would look like. Knowing what I know now as an adult and reading scripture and getting to know the Lord on a deeper level than what I had ever known him, especially being 10 years old, I can look at that and separate the two and know that that was not a man of God. Obviously, he did not know the Lord. So I did turn my uncle in. He did go to jail, and I was in foster care. Even though it wasn't my fault, and I know that now, I did have a lot of hurt and a lot of pain. I didn't know how to cope with it. I never really had counseling, but I felt shame and disgusting and not worthy of anything. So when I got to college, and I was bartending, I was just drinking all the time. I would say it was pretty much a problem. And that's how I was coping because, again, I didn't really truly know God. The only way that you knew I was a Christian is because of my Facebook said religious beliefs Christian. I was 23 when I became a Christian. I just remember I was just asking him all these deep questions, and I go and I sit in my bed and I had my Bible that I hadn't opened, and I can't tell you how long it had dust on it. But as soon as I opened it, it was literally a scripture that talked about how your Father will put you on a righteous path. And I had just lost my job. My boyfriend had just dumped me. Like, it was crazy. It was literally a season of change. And I just remember I was crying so hard, and I was just like, please just hold me, just hold me. And I just felt physically, for the first time, it literally felt like someone was holding me, and I instantly stopped crying. I was crying so bad, I couldn't stop, but I instantly stopped. I just had this overwhelming peace, and I knew it was God. And that was the moment I gave my life to Him. After accepting Jesus, I went and got a Bible that I actually understood, and I just delved in. I started reading scripture. I started just really trying to know the Lord on a deeper level because I had a lot of questions. And it was a season in my life where I was in this constant battle between, I love the Lord, but I have all these anger and I have all these emotions and things like that. And it's not supposed to feel that way. And everyone talks about the overwhelming peace and joy and things like that. And I just never understood that because I wasn't there yet. I really decided a couple years ago to read the New Testament before the end of the year, and I started in July, so I had some work to do, but I read it cover to cover, New Testament, got in it, read it, and it just kept talking about forgiveness over and over. And then I started hearing podcasts about forgiveness, and then Christian songs on the radio were talking about it. So then when it came to Pastor Adam, he did a sermon on it, and I was so touched by the sermon, I cried the whole time. I knew that sermon was directed at me, like God was like, it's time. He was like, I wish I could take away what they did to you. He's like, I wish I was there. He's like, I wish, none of that happened. And I was so emotional during that because I was just already on that line of knowing what I needed to do. And I was still just fighting that. But it was just like the nail in the coffin. That was just God was just calling my heart. And He was just like, just give it to me. Please, just give it to me. It's so hard to explain because it was just so sad. I was so full of despair. And knowing what I know now, it's just I wish I wouldn't have waited 25 years of my life to get to where I am now. Once I saw how beautiful Jesus is and His character, just through His teachings and things like that, just getting to know Him on such a deep level, you can't help but just want to follow His direction and say, okay, it's not about me. It's about you. All the glory needs to go to you. So how can I take this pain and how can I take this story and glorify you? Because I know I didn't go through it for no reason. It's meant for something bigger. And I'm okay with that if that means leading someone to the Lord, because I can empathize with somebody on a deep level and actually know, yes, I feel your pain. I'm here with you in the trenches. I've been there. If that helps me bring people to Christ, I'm okay with whatever I went through. When I really kind of started thinking about my mom's killer, I found out that the murderer, he has cancer, he's gonna die. I may never get that closure. They may never find her. And even my uncle, who did those horrible things to us, the Lord will handle whatever He needs to handle. I'm not the judge and jury, and I know that's so hard for us because we want to be vindicated and we want to feel like we're heard. And I had to sit down and really think about all of this stuff and say, I love Jesus more than my unforgiveness. And I love Jesus more than my pain. And I love Jesus more than my pride. And I love Jesus more than feeling vindicated. And when I started looking at it that way, nothing else mattered. That unforgiveness turns into bitterness. It'll just permeate every part of your life because it is literally poison. It's like a really heavy suitcase that you're carrying around all the time, and you're just holding on to it and you won't let it go, but it's weighing you down and you can't breathe. I was getting baptized and I really wanted to have that representation of the water where you go down with your old life and you come back, and it's a representation of like your new walk, like with Christ. And I just didn't want to carry any of that negative into my new walk with life with Christ. You know, obviously, if you would have told me back then that I would be here now, like with the things that I have, with the life that I have, with the family I have, I would have just not believed it. The best advice I can ever give anybody is read the Bible. That's a big one. Reading the Bible and actually understanding the scripture and letting it just permeate your heart and change your character, change the way you look at things, change your outlook. Let it engulf every aspect of your life. Obviously, you know, take it to the Lord. I know that's so cliche, but I mean, take it to the Lord, because He's there. He's your Father. He's your confidant. Like, He's there for you, to sit next to you, to go through it with you. Let Him walk you through that process. It's not going to happen overnight. You're going to have to do it a couple of times, but let Him go through it with you. But be vulnerable enough to trust God in that sense, to where you know at the end of the day, He is going to be there with you and get you through it. Because I promise you, when you're on the other side, it's insane. It's insane to describe.